Today I'm thinking about the rising costs of video games. More importantly, I'm zooming out and thinking about the pricing of video games. Because I believe there is a distinction to be made. To me, a price is the end result of a math problem, whereas pricing is everything that comes before that. It's all the variables like costs, supply, demand, and how you go about adjusting these values that you end up with the final price. Now, personally, I don't think I've seen anything that justifies the current pricing models. I don't completely buy the inflation argument, I wouldn't rent the increasing cost argument, and I wouldn't lease the industry standard argument. Furthermore, AAA has done something unforgivable. They're making me side with EA of all companies. I have to frame it as EA agreeing with me so I don't feel so dirty. Yes, that EA. Electronic Arts Esquire. That same company that pushed out loot boxes so predatory it inspired national legislation and got some of its games banned in multiple countries. That same EA that used to have a CEO who wanted to charge players to reload their guns when they ran out of ammo. That EA is now the one saying they have no plans to raise prices on games like Nintendo and Xbox have done. Okay, what's the catch? According to them, the video game industry has changed. It's not like it was back in the day where you had to manufacture a physical product, ship it around, store it in warehouses, and make space for it in retail stores. Most of their money comes from digital sales. And EA already has a varying assortment of pricing options from free-to-play to deluxe editions, and so on and so forth. Now let me emphasize that I am not absolving EA of their past sins. Nor do I necessarily agree with how they go about making their money currently. It's the introspection I agree with, the forethought for basic economics. There is such a thing as a price ceiling. That's the most a customer is willing to pay. There's also a price floor. That's the least a customer is willing to pay. And with these 2 points, you now have the pricing range of a hobby. And why do you need to know this? Because it helps you keep your costs in line so you can actually make money. Knowing your place in a competitive market is imperative. Gaming, as the modern world knows it, is not seen as a premium product. We have to be honest there. I see the inflation argument being brought up all the time, and I personally think it lacks context. If you haven't heard it, it goes like this. Someone brings up an old game, like say Super Mario Bros. 3, and points out, correctly so, that it cost around $50 American back in 1990. And if you adjust that for inflation, then that's a little over $122 in 2025. So really, the games are cheaper than they've ever been. And the immediate counter most people go to is that wages and affordability haven't kept up with inflation. And while I agree with that notion, I feel there's too many moving parts to be as convincing as it could be. So I have something else to add that's a little different. Consider this. Gaming is way more popular now than it was in 1990. And most of its growth was within the last 10 years with the popularity of online marketplaces, mobile gaming, and free-to-play live service video games. And side note, but it's kind of relevant, you play these video games on TVs, phones, and PCs that are considerably cheaper and of a much higher quality than what was around in 1990. It doesn't matter if your product is now matching inflation rates. If most of your modern audience was attracted to your product during a time when you used to beat inflation rates with considerable bang for buck. Let me simplify that even more. Back in my day, a large Little Caesars pizza was $5 hot and ready. Now it's about $8 hot if you wait 15 minutes, or cold and ready. It's not the raised price I weep for. It's the loss of purpose and the blunting of what was once a competitive edge. The bang for buck and speedy handoff was what led to many an opportunistic purchase. But now I'm willing to pay more for a better pizza somewhere else if I have to wait the same amount of time. Or I keep a cheaper frozen pizza in the freezer to crack open in case of emergencies. And I think that's a spot-on metaphor if I do say so myself, because that's essentially what's happening to the video game industry. Gamer indoctrination has stagnated relative to the last couple of years. Not nearly as many people are getting into gaming at the rate that they used to. And that is solely gaming. Because we're seeing that the book industry is still gaining customers, the film industry is still gaining customers, and the music industry is still gaining customers. We're also seeing that the majority of gamers are playing older live service games and spending on microtransactions for games they already play rather than buying new games. And yet the video game industry earnings are still projected to continue growing. Do you know what I mean by that? The amount of customers is stagnating, yet the industry still expects to make even more money. They cannot find more customers, so they are going to squeeze the ones they have. Lo and behold, the market, it spoke, and the capitalists didn't like it. What's happened is the customers have voted with their wallets. There's a certain price range relative to inflation and the rest of the entertainment industry that they would like for video games to stay at. So now the next excuse is the cost of development has risen. Well, my coldest closeted capitalist take is it doesn't matter if the cost to develop a video game continues to rise. That's not my problem. That's your business strategy. Who asked you to, huh? I didn't ask you to. And that attitude is naive. Let me tell you something that I find funny. It's whenever someone talks of their business like it's a mysterious, unknowable entity detached from their own actions. Costs keep rising. Check the phrasing on that. No accountability whatsoever. No personal responsibility, nothing. It's not my costs keep rising, or more accurately, it's not I keep spending more or I'm trying to pad my profit margins. It's the economy works in mysterious ways. I am not an active player competing in the marketplace of ideas. I am a victim. And it's annoyingly on par with the excuse of industry standards. Have you heard that one before? Oh, we're just following industry standards. It's like peer pressure or something. How do I tell you this? But you are part of the industry. You can set your own standards. In fact, it's encouraged to compete with one another instead of towing the line on mediocrity. If I was any more conspiratorial, I'd have anyone citing industry standards investigated for collusion. Because industry standards sounds like coded messaging for, let's all set the price this high, and then we can say the price is the price because the price. This sounds anti-competitive to me during a time when competition has never been milder. Not only has the swap from physical to digital games saved money on the cost of manufacturing and shipping, they're also saving on the cost of competition. Xbox, Nintendo, Sony, and everyone else used to have to bid for space on the shelves of a Toys R Us. They used to have to compete at E3 for the better showcases. Who is Xbox elbowing for space at the Xbox Direct and in their own storefront on a digital-only Xbox? And you're still outspending those savings. What are your rising costs? Labor? There have been thousands of layoffs. Outsourcing is an open secret, and if rumors are true, I'm not saying it is, just that I've heard a thing or two, AI is already being selectively used for the specific purposes of offsetting costs. Meanwhile, record-breaking profits were being reported year in, year out. Bring me those so-called industry specialists who say Grand Theft Auto 6 could very well be priced at $100 on release and set a new industry standard. Why should they? Why shouldn't it go the other way? Demand is high, digital supply is infinite, near infinite, Grand Theft Auto 5 was beloved, and Grand Theft Auto 6 would be released to a whole new generation on top of the old fans because so much time has passed. Rockstar has a chance to do the funniest thing right now if they release it $70, $60, hell even $50 and make more on the tail end for years to come with user-generated content. Oh, now that would be delicious. I need this. I need more individual pieces of the industry to remind the others that undercutting each other is always an option. I need them to be reminded that this industry is not the same as it was 30 years ago, and I need them to understand that the customer isn't concerned with the industry's costs. And I believe, if there is going to be any change, it's going to have to come from the console side of gaming. Unfortunately, PC gaming currently is an island lush with pricing options. There are always sales, there's shared accounts, the backlogs can see a gamer through a drought or two. It doesn't matter to us if games go up to $300, we'll still be waiting for it to get to $15 or less. Free-to-play games practically start here, and that's all the stuff you consider before you consider getting on a boat and shoving off to the high seas. Hi-ho fiddly-dee, PC gamers can effectively shrug off the rising costs of gaming, which sadly leaves console gamers stuck with dad on the nights where he's had a little too much to drink. And for you, what can be said outside of good luck? I'd help you more if I could, but I don't live there anymore. I already don't own a console, and continuing that 12-year streak won't make a dent like a console gamer retiring. No, that's not trying to convince you to come over to the PC side of things. I understand transitioning can be a pain, and the upfront cost is hard to justify. All I can really do is ask questions, give my perspective, and cancel my Xbox Game Pass if that subscription goes up even $1 more because it's right on the cusp of what I'm willing to pay. And like I said, I haven't been given a good reason as to why I should accept the rise in prices. Inflation? Industry standards? Your rising costs? Nah. Why not acknowledge that this is where we're at? Quit with the tricks, because they're for kids. Focus on quality, and compete with each other instead of collectively ganging up on the customer. Dear God, am I saying be more like EA? I don't know. I have thoughts, though.